Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. It's been like 3 weeks, like I predicted that it probably would be, given the book I've been reading all this time has been quite a chunky one. But yeah, here we are. It's been 3 weeks. I hope you are all good. I'm doing good. What have I been up to 3 weeks? Well, I'm absolutely loving my Lego Hogwarts Castle. I did have it on display for a bit, but then it annoyed me that I was collecting dust, and I kind of feel like Lego you should break it apart, you should make it all again. So I've been breaking it apart and making it up again constantly, because I want to get my money's worth out of the amount of money that I spent on it, and I think I have. So I'm really chuffed with that. Work's been as it is, has been as usual. I am really excited because tonight the first episode of Lethal White, the Strike BBC drama, starts. So that's going to be so great. And the second part is tomorrow, and then it's going to be the next 2 Sundays. So it's 4 episodes in total. I am so super excited. As you know, and in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks on Tuesday, the new Strike book is released. And as you know, I'm doing this thing of not buying a book in 2020, except I gave that as my 1 book leeway, just because at the beginning of the year I didn't know if it was even going to be published. There were rumours going about that she might have nearly completed it, but it wasn't confirmed. And then about February, we got the confirmation. So it was like, right, that's my 1 book leeway. I have booked the day off work, but because of COVID, I pre-ordered it online. So it really depends on when it gets delivered to my house. I'm really hoping it's going to be before 6 p.m. Or something, because else I have lost an entire day of not reading. But yeah, so my plan is at the moment, because the next 2 books that I'm reading that I've already announced are Sophia and Catherine Swinford, and these aren't very big. So over the next 2 weeks, I'm planning to get through these 2 books. So I'm not going to have a long gap like I had with the review for this one. So then that way I can read the next Strike book, and then I've got the next 5 already lined up for you guys. So I am so buzzed this morning. I've woken up really early. Well, I tend to get up early anyway, but I was still, I could have spent another hour in bed, but no, because I was so excited about Strike, and therefore that's why the lighting is so crap in my living room at the minute. But, let's go with it. I'm in my nice snuggly Harry Potter sweatshirt, which I love. So, yeah, here we are. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the book I've been reading over the past few weeks, which is Mary Shelley by Miranda Seymore. Now, as you may remember, the last book that I read, In Byron's Wake, was also by Miranda. That was the first of Miranda's books that I read. And so this one, I kind of knew what I was going into, but I really didn't at the same time. And knowing her writing style and, stuff like that. But yeah, I really didn't know what to expect. And this book is so much chunkier than the previous one that I read. And I was just a bit like little daunted. And there is this kind of thing that, especially like biographies and such, though, if there's a subject where lots of people have written about, there's usually the thing of the definitive one. And this is the definitive one for Mary Shelley. So I was a bit like, right, show me what you got, Miranda. And to be honest, I wasn't that impressed by it. I really wasn't. Right. In the previous, In Byron's Wake, I said how it was about Ada Lovelace and her mum, so Byron's daughter and wife. And I said how I would have liked a little bit more detail. I maybe would have preferred her to do them as 2 separate books, but I totally understood why she did them together, because it makes total sense. I'd want that little extra detail, but I also wanted her to ask questions. I wanted I wanted her to expand a bit, but there were a lot of characters in that book. There were a lot of things to get through, so I totally understood what she did with the limits that she had. Then I turned to Mary Shelley, and it felt like Miranda referenced every single little document that's ever that still exists, because there's letters and obviously stuff linked to Mary that no longer exists. Every little thing, every anecdote, every article, every reference to her regarding her husband, and that she has made reference to every single one of those in this book. It felt like a slog to get through. I felt frustrated. I had days where I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to read this book. I really don't want to. And, I have stopped reading books during the course of doing this channel. Not very often. It is really, really quite rare that I do that. But I really got to the point where I was thinking, no, I can't do this. I cannot do this anymore. But I persevered through for you guys. And in the end, I did like that she looked at so many aspects about Mary. There's some things I didn't like was that she very much kind of brushed over things that were really quite important, or at least things that I believe were quite important for Mary. So, for example, her mother. Okay, her mother died giving birth to her, so she's not going to be around, as it were. Totally get that. But it's pretty much, her mum is only like 3 pages of this book, and her mum was a big kind of character. She published a book about feminism. She had this forceful nature about her, which I think kind of Mary sort of inherited in a way. There's something like Mary has always longed to know her, because she never knew her mother, but she has her spirit. She has these words that her mother wrote, and her mum is reduced to about 3 pages in this book, and I'm like, no, I don't like that. I did like the thing about the bond that she had with her dad and everything, but then at the same time I was just a little bit frustrated with that. It kind of felt like the beginning feels very, for me personally, it feels a bit rushed. Like she's trying to get through her youth in such extremely quickly, to the point where she's a teenager, and she's starting, and she meets Percy Shelley and stuff, and then that's the point where she really goes into the depths of details and such. But not to say that she isn't detailed in Mary's early years, it just felt like it was a bit rushed, and yet it was a slog at the same time. I couldn't feel comfortable reading this book, which again I know sounds very strange, but I like to be able to sit back, relax, feel like I'm having a conversation with an old friend, or meeting up with an old friend, especially with biographies and autobiographies, obviously. I feel like I really want to know these people as people, but because of the way it feels very academic, and as I said, she's referencing absolutely every little thing that Mary Shelley, every little document is kind of referenced in, it feels kind of cold and disconnected. And as I said, academic, it frustrated. The more I read it, the more I got frustrated. I thought this would be a book where I would know and understand Mary as a woman, not the icon. It kind of, to me, an icon and a person are 2 different things. It's kind of like, celebrity status, where, you see somebody all over magazines and films and all that, but who are they really? that's what I wanted. And in a way, this book kind of looked more of the celebrity picture, not the person. It's like, I felt there was more depth to Mary than what I could find in this book. I wanted to read about the complexities of her life, her mind, for making Frankenstein, and for dealing with all the shit that she went through, and like the loss of her daughter. It just felt so kind of cold and detached, or at least for me. I don't know, maybe I was just in the wrong headspace. I don't know if others reading this have felt the same way, but then I have looked, because especially when I'm reading a book where I'm not enjoying it, I go on like Goodreads and I have a look around, and there are a lot of people who actually felt the same as me, and that there are better biographies and such, and that how it's very academic. And Miranda, I think, because when I saw her at the Literature Festival, I found her very interesting in the things she was talking about Mary Shelley and such. But at the same time, she was very much not wanting to question things. And I flagged that in Byron's Awake, one of her more recent books, that I wanted her to explore certain elements more. I wanted her to ask questions, and she didn't. And I did flag my last review, is it a historian generational thing? Like, and I compared David Starkey to Lucy Worsley, two very prominent historians who have produced some absolutely fabulous work in their fields. But David very much is the academic, older kind of 90s kind of approach of looking at history. And Lucy is the modern one where she wants to question things. She wants to break things down. She did a fantastic TV series about Henry VIII and Henry VIII's 6 wives. And she explored them as women first, not the stories and the pictures that we know in our minds of them. And it was fantastic. I think I am so used to having modern historians asking these questions and such, maybe when I'm going back over older books and that, to an older generation, that's why I'm getting frustrated. That's why I'm finding them kind of cold and more academic than what I want. I want to explore the person. So for me, this book didn't necessarily work. But at the same time, from an academic point of view, it was a good book, but it just didn't suit me. Actually, when was this published? I can't remember. I'm just going to check. 2000. Wow, this was published in 2000, so it's not that old. But then, as I said, 90s, and obviously 2000 is right after the 90s. It kind of fits then with what I was just saying about how 90s history, especially if you look at history programs, they are very academic. They are kind of cut off from their subject. But yeah, it kind of works from an academic point of view. But history stuff now, we want to break down doors. We want to ask more questions. We want to find the humans in history. And I think Miranda falls into that academic, older historian vibe. Yeah, it's early morning and I can't think what the words are, sorry, but it just didn't work for me. That doesn't mean it won't work for you or anybody else who's read this book. I was bothered by some aspects of the way that she portrayed Mary, especially after Percy died. I don't like that with Mary, she's defined as obviously the creator of Frankenstein, which is a fucking incredible book, and the widow who was just constantly crying and kept her husband's heart in her desk drawer. Okay, yes, she did that with the heart thing, but it just kind of feels like there's more to this woman. It's kind of like with the whole losing her child right before she wrote Frankenstein, which is a big thing, and yet it kind of gets brushed over. And I'm like, she went through some really messed up stuff. She was lucky that she had a father who wanted to teach, even though she was a girl, because at that time girls didn't get much of an education. He taught her, you know, science and maths and all this lot. She had this amazing mother whose words she read a lot about, and yet she's this very sad soul, and I want, at least that's how we perceive her, and I wanted to understand. So I see her as so strong, a really strong woman, even though obviously going through a lot will obviously affect your mental health, will make you very down. Don't get me wrong, I totally understand that, but I feel like in order to endure what she endured, she was a strong woman, and I wanted that celebrated and focused, and that didn't really happen in this book. This was more of an academic book. I do have another biography of Mary Shelley, which I bought at the same time, and Miranda was on a panel with another author of Mary Shelley book and the presenter, and they were going back and forth talking about various aspects of Mary, and I found the younger historian really interesting what she was saying. She was exploring more of the mental health side of Mary, and I bought her book at the same time, so maybe I should dig that one out, and it's significantly smaller, but I really found her interesting as well, these two women seeing this woman in very different way. As I said, I don't know if it's an academic thing, if it's a generational thing, I don't know, but yeah, as an academic book, it was good. As a book for me, it didn't work. But there we go, each to their own. So, right, I'm 18 minutes in and I haven't done a reading, so I'm just going to go past that for today. So, those are my thoughts on Mary Shelley by Miranda Seymore. Now, would I read this again? Unlikely, because I didn't get on with it. I don't know if maybe an audio version, how interesting that would be. I might just have a look at the audio version, because sometimes books may not necessarily work for me, but sometimes if I listen to them, it then does. It sounds odd, but maybe because of my frustration of, oh my god, I'm gonna have to go back to this book this evening and I really don't want to, and I'm tired from work, and maybe listening to it during work or something might be a better thing, because I like listening to audiobooks while I'm working. It really helps me focus and so. And I've been listening to ghost stories over the past few days, which I absolutely love. A certain collection off Audible, maybe spooky kind of stuff. It'll give me I don't know, but we'll see. So would I read this again? Unlikely. Would I read anything else by Miranda Seymore? I'm not thinking I would now, because I've read a book from 2000, as I said, very academic, which I didn't get along with, and then I've read one of her most recent books, which was better, but it still frustrated me with questions not being asked, and maybe it's Miranda's style, but if she'd written a book with a particular subject that I liked, maybe I would, but right now, I'm not fussed about reading another Miranda Seymore book. Would I recommend this to anyone? I would give the warning that I didn't like it, But if you want a more academic approach to Mary Shelley and her life, then yes. But I would give that warning. So there we go. So that's Mary Shelley by Miranda Seymore. So as I said at the beginning of this review, I've got the next 2 books that I'd already picked. I'm going to get these read in 2 weeks. That's my goal. So then that way, when the new Cormoran Strike book is released and gets to me, I can start on that. I will review that, and then I'll go into the 5 that I've already picked next. And the 5 I actually didn't pick. So there we go. Little clue. I'm referring to it as the random mix. So there we are. So I'll be back with my thoughts. The next one is Sophia. So I'll be back with my thoughts on Sophia most likely next week. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you read this book, I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments box below. Leave me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell it to you, I'll let you decide. And yeah, if you're in the UK, as I am, enjoy the bank holiday weekend. Yay! I'm so looking forward to having the extra day off work. But yeah, enjoy it. All right, guys. Bye.